Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and it is Monday, and that's the 30th of September, 36 days until Donald Trump is dumped on the ash heap of history where he belongs. But let me also say that in those 36 days and in the days following, when Donald says that he has won, even though he's lost, it will be certainly a pressure-packed time for the country. But before I even talk about any of that, let me say that I just listened to Kamala, who was on the airwaves very appropriately, talking about what the federal government is doing in Florida and throughout the Southeast in order to try to help people to survive the disaster that they've gone through, of course, with the hurricane. And amazingly, I heard some numbers that are just shocking. First, 120 people are dead and many more are missing. And then on top of that, you've got 2 million people without any power. Nothing. It's unbelievable. No cell phones, no power, no connection to the world. It's really an ugly situation. And then on top of that, you've got naturally little kids, and they have no water. They have little access to formula and whatever else they need. It's certainly disastrous. And there's not anything superhuman that you can do here except for provide every bit of the power of the federal government to help protect the people who are still alive and to find the people who may be in danger but haven't been found yet. And that's what Kamala was talking about. Like I say, not superhuman, not extraordinary, but again, the perfect pitch. That is, she said everything in the exact way that it needs to be said to help people to know that the federal government is going to be there not only now, but indefinitely. That support will be brought to the people in that area to the limits that are necessary in order to help people to survive and rebuild. And you wouldn't even really have to tell this story except for the fact that this maniac is running around saying that the federal government refuses to help, will not provide any services, and that only he can help to save people from what's going on down there. And so he's going to show up when he's been told, don't come. Everybody there, the governors, the local people, mayors, and everybody, the emergency group, everybody, they've all said, do not come. They said it to Donald. They said it to the president. They said it to the vice president. They said it to everybody. We don't want you here because even though your intentions may be terrific, you will take up resources, and there are people out here who are desperate. So do not come. And so naturally, Donald, when he heard that, he's running straight for that area. They're saying, stay away. And he is getting there as fast as he can. Throw paper towels at the people. I don't know what he's going to do. Whatever it is, he doesn't belong there. And they've told him, don't go there. Now, we'll see what he does and why. mean, forget why. None of it makes any sense with him. It never did, and it never will. But I just wanted to talk about what was going on there because it's pretty horrific. And compared to the very minor problem that I had getting on the air here this afternoon, which involved a train that was blocking everything. And I still have no idea what that train was doing because, Joe, that train was going backward and forward across the area where all the cars were trying to go through. And when I got there, I was at the front of the line. And by the time I left, which I only did because you suggested wisely that I just turn around and come back on the highway, which I did, the line of cars is now back miles in Chesterfield. And of course, this is a live broadcast. So if you're out there anywhere, you definitely want to stay away from the train tracks coming down from Wild Horse Creek over where the JCCA is, because it's just blocked off. And I can't even tell you when it's going to stop from being blocked off because, like I say, the train is going back and forth in that intersection. Certainly they know what's happening, so you would have to guess that whatever they're doing is absolutely necessary. So I hope that's true, and I guess it is, because it's just going back and forth and blocking the intersection. Nobody can get through. Traffic coming from all different directions and backed up now for miles. So anyway, that's our very small problem compared to the just terrible situation in the Southeast. And I know, as an example, some of my family is in Tampa Bay, and that's Pinellas County. And when I was watching to see the place where the storm was going to land, I mean, I assumed that the people in St. Petersburg wouldn't even be slightly affected. But au contraire, the storm has broadened out so far, or did, that it really did extreme damage in Tampa, St. Petersburg, all through that area of Florida. And then, of course, all the way up to the Panhandle where it actually landed and where people are now without electricity and other just, very seriously needed services. Can't get generators, can't get a lot of things. Obviously, the federal government will be able to helicopter in some kind of support. And that's why, Kamala did the right thing. She was on the air and making it clear that whatever was needed, the federal government would not only bring it in, but would continue to provide services for an unlimited period of time until people were able to get back on their feet, which, the way all this sounds, that could be a very long time before people are really capable of operating in a normal fashion in those areas. But you know what they say about climate change, it doesn't exist. And yet this storm was just monstrous. I think they said 450 miles across. It was huge. And in the meantime, a lot of discussion this afternoon about the effort on the part of Donald while he's down there pretending like he's doing something in some superhuman fashion. In the meantime, he has created one of the chapters in Project 2025, which calls for the complete dismantling of the NOAA administration, which includes all this work that was done initially to identify where the storm would be in order to protect people and help them to go somewhere else. But then additionally, all the work that needs to be done to the federal government, the support that they need to marshal to bring whatever is necessary into that area. I mean, all of that to be completely wiped out by Project 2025. Although, I mean, again, it's never going to happen. Never. And I mean, I don't say this to try to convince somebody to vote one way or the other, because I don't think there's even a person out there that hasn't decided what they are going to do. I think everybody knows where they're going on this. There was another general today. Was it trying to scare me, huh? Yeah, that's all right. I'm very flexible. Yeah, nobody could hear that, right? No. Yeah, but I could hear it. They were bombarding me with music. It's a typical communist society kind of thing where they blast your ears with music and they make you insane, and you try to jump out a window somewhere. But unfortunately, this is at ground level, so I won't be able to do that. But anyway, I have to tell you that it's a sad situation when you consider what it is that is suggested by Donald and his people, and it doesn't make the slightest bit of sense at all, and yet it's what they're trying to do. And I'm going to talk about some more of what they're trying to do this afternoon, because they're up to all kinds of craziness. But like I say, it really hardly matters at this point. With 36 days to go before we end the front end of this mess, because like I say, the back end after the election is going to be torturous to the country. It really is. I mean, it won't make any difference. Kamala will win. And when I say she'll win, it's only because of what happened, what you're hearing this afternoon as far as, new generals who are joining against Kamala Harris. If you'd have heard this guy, I think his name is McStanley, but whatever it is, he's somebody that they say is highly respected, and he's a retired military officer who doesn't even get involved in such things, as he pointed out that he never would, except that in the case of Donald, he just had no choice. He felt that he just had to stand up and speak out, because Donald is such a sick individual that anybody that might have an influence just needs to stand up and say that the sickness that this man is bringing to the American public is just, well, it's beyond belief, and it never ends. Well, anyway, let's talk about some of the things that Donald is up to right now, while Kamala acts presidential, normal, intelligent. And I say intelligent after he's running around talking about her being mentally impaired, mentally disabled. First of all, if it were true, he shouldn't be talking like this about her. But it's not. And she is so wisely not taking the bait, which, of course, he did take the bait. He went for everything. All the things that she threw out there for him to jump on and act crazy about, he did, and she won't. Because, again, just way too smart. But, for example, and speaking of Project 2025, one of the things that was talked about at length this weekend was Chapter 11 of Project 2025. And in that chapter, which is all about the Department of Education, it explains that the Department of Education needs to be completely dismantled. Well, interesting point, because Donald is now saying, and this, he's not referring to Project 2025, but he's saying that the Department of Education needs to be completely dismantled, which is just a little funny, because this is the guy who says that he has no connection to this plan. Never heard of it, doesn't know anything about it, doesn't know any of the people involved in it. And yet, here he is talking about things that are in the plan and promoting the plan, just not using the name. And I guess he thinks people are stupid, which, you know how many times I've said, women aren't stupid, blacks aren't stupid, Jews aren't stupid, young people aren't stupid. I guess, unfortunately, white men, and especially, they say, without college diplomas, they are the ones who are being captured by this insanity, going to these meetings that Donald has. These, basically, it's just a regular Nuremberg 1933 Nazi meeting with people hysterically screaming. The only thing missing is the swastikas and the arms going up yelling Sieg Heil. But honestly, it's Nuremberg 1933, and you can find it at every Donald Trump meeting across this country. Now, the things that they're screaming, well, it partly has to do with Kamala being mentally impaired, partly has to do with wanting to send black people back to Africa. And see, you know, I'm going to say it the way it is. I mean, people say, oh, it's a trope. Well, go look up what a trope is. Yeah, it's a trope, okay? I mean, they're saying send the Haitians anywhere. I mean, they want to do this mass deportation, which includes a deportation of American citizens. American citizens to be deported from this country. This is what they want. And part of the reason is because, as you undoubtedly have heard, Donald has been talking all weekend about how the migrants will be coming into your kitchen and cutting your throats. You heard me. I mean, you've heard it's been said all weekend. I'm sure you've heard it. This can't be the first time you've heard this. Donald is saying it repeatedly. They are coming into your kitchen in order to come and cut your throats. He'll go anywhere, won't he? Absolutely anywhere. I mean, do I have to say that you can't find one person in the United States today who has had anybody come into their kitchen and cut their throat? I mean, do I have to say that? Do I have to ask that question? Because you know that this is lunacy. And he wants you to talk about it. He wants everybody to talk about it. Because I guess that he was so upset by the fact that the discussion of everything was all about Kamala. So he decided he was going to have to say things to bring the discussion back to himself. And in that respect, I think Donald has done an outstanding job, because I don't think there's any question that people are now talking about Trump. They're talking about the people who are coming into your kitchen to cut your throats. They're talking about mentally disabled people as well as political candidates who are going to destroy your lives, who are turning this country into a communist dictatorship. Why would he say these things? What is wrong with him? Now, you could say, and you'd be accurate, that the progressives that are in control of this country today are prepared for government to play a very significant role in solving problems as far as the eye can see. That, I think, is definitely what's on the mind of this current administration, Barack Obama's administration, Kamala Harris's group, everybody. I mean, Kamala's group is just, Hillary's people. These are all Democrats, and they all have ideas for what the government can do to make life better in the United States. Now, as a conservative, you could very reasonably say, this is too much. I want the government to stay out of our business. I think that it's just, there's too much government. We need to watch how much we spend. Now, by the way, I disagree with all of this. I think we need far more government. I think we need to keep spending, spend more. Absolutely. I mean, that's me. I always say that I am a radical leftist. And I think that's the best way to describe it. I'm more than a progressive or a liberal, and I'm way out on the left. And I believe that there are solutions to our problems that can be solved way out on the left in this country. When I listen to Kamala talking about protecting the border, that bothers me, because the border doesn't need to be protected. The border needs to be managed. And that is allowing the people to all come across, sign them up for the United States of America, send 1 million of our high school graduates who maybe have not started college yet, send them down there, Peace Corps type, pay them whatever, $1,200 a month, something like that, to go down and be mentors for all of these people coming across the border, help them to learn how to speak English, get into educational institutions, take care of their children, assimilate into our societies. I mean, all of this can easily be done by high school graduates. They'll get tremendous experience. I would love to be a 19-year-old high school graduate with a resume that says, I helped at the border. I brought these great people in from other countries, helped them to fit into the United States, and help them to become, and I hate to say this because, I definitely have no love for Ronald Reagan, but this is Ronald Reagan's vision. Ronald Reagan, who I've played here on the air saying this, bring these people here, get them set up, and make them productive people in our society. Now, you could say Karl Marx, I'll say Ronald Reagan. Karl Marx is a completely different problem. And no one that we're dealing with is thinking about Karl Marx. But I think all of the people that we're dealing with, I think they are considering not just Ronald Reagan, not just the words, the language on the Statue of Liberty, but I think they're also considering what it is that has made America an amazingly strong and vibrant country, and that is this expansion of who it is that makes up America. And if you think that doing this is aimed at trying to turn a bunch of immigrants into Democrats, that is the dumbest thing that I have ever heard. And part of the reason I say that, I mean, all you got to do is go look at what the Hispanics are doing. Now, I will admit that the Hispanics are 54-40 in favor of Kamala Harris, and they were far less than that in favor of Joe Biden. But then, as Kamala came in, those numbers have begun to turn around, and she is now gaining ground again in this Hispanic community. But look, 40% are still at the present supporting Donald. So my point is, don't be so sure that just because it's in their best interest to be with Kamala, that they would be with her, because there are some people out here that are being conned by one of the greatest con men in history. And when I say that, it's hard to say it because he's so incompetent with regard to everything. And yet he has done a terrific job of corralling high school graduates who have never gone to college and who are white. These are white people who are easily conned into believing that this Adolf Hitler is the solution to whatever problems they think exist in America. And that's another point. What are our problems again? I'll tell you some problems. We have far too many people who owe too much money. I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about individuals. They owe too much money. They're paying too much for rent. And they're in a mess of a situation. Although there are services that the government provides and would continue to provide under Kamala, but which they would not provide under Donald Trump, because he's already talking about cutting off everything. Cut off Medicare, cut off Social Security, cut off food stamps, cut off every government program. You think I'm saying something about Medicare and Social Security that isn't true? Come on, go check it out. It's all in Project 2025. It's all things that Donald is talking about. On one end, he says, we're not going to tax Social Security. And then on the other end, he says, we're going to end Social Security. Doesn't say it that way. He doesn't jump up and say, guess what, people? The money that you're relying on today, you're not going to get it. No, he doesn't say it that way. But he does say that we're cutting it off, but without telling you directly that that's what he's going to do. They want to fire tens of thousands of people who currently work in the United States Civil Service because they wouldn't be needed to administer any of these programs, because these programs wouldn't exist. I mean, this is insanity. Is this something that Vladimir Putin is trying to convince Donald to do, which I guess he doesn't have to do much to convince him of anything, because Donald's doing it. He's out here promoting the craziest ideas that you could ever come across. Here's one. One violent day of policing, and we will end crime in America. And when Donald says that, he's very careful to emphasize that he's very serious about it and that he wants to be extremely violent. Because he says that extraordinary violence aimed at just getting them, picking them up, bring them into, I don't know where, camps, I don't know, probably. Got to put them somewhere, jail. Yeah, they get all these people in a jail cell over on Rikers right next to Donald's trailer. But see, Donald's not going to win. No, America isn't going for this. Certainly, one of the fears that some people have on my side is that if Donald were able to do this, that the Supreme Court might sign on. End individual rights. Stop Miranda. No more Miranda rights. Just pick everybody up and smack them around. I'm sure they have a lot of room in Siberia where Donald kills his, I'm sorry, not Donald, but Vladimir kills his enemies in the I want to say the Soviet Union, which is what it is. But at any rate, the fact is that this is what they're aiming for, to restore the Soviets and to make the United States a satellite of the Soviets. Listen to Donald. Listen to him praising every dictator in the world. And then listening to him talk about Kamala, who he calls Camilla, which is really so childish. He knows how to pronounce her name, but when you're listening to it, you got to think to yourself, why is he doing this? He knows how to pronounce her name, and everybody knows that he can pronounce her name. So what is this? This is some kind of a joke that is going to get people to vote against her? If anything, the people who support her will be even more hardened in their convictions that they have to go to the polls and make sure that their vote is counted. And by the way, there's another area. I've talked about the fact that Donald had focused on 70 different areas around the country where they were going to try to block the election when Kamala wins. Well, it's now up to 90, and it includes 90 lawsuits that have already been brought, anticipating that Donald will lose in 36 days. So it's not 70, now it's 90, and I'm sure it's going to grow. Now, don't think that there isn't another side. The Democrats have hired teams of lawyers that are being sent all over the country to each of these areas where Donald is doing everything he can to disrupt the upcoming election. And these lawyers are there to file suits to prevent things from being done, which would be aimed at stopping the counting of votes, so that Donald could presumably attempt to push all of this back into the House of Representatives, where he could, if he were able to do it, win. because it's true that the Republican House, and it's more than that because it's by legislative district, and clearly the Republicans have an advantage because of the gerrymandering that has taken place over the years. Illegal gerrymandering, by the way, but nevertheless, it's been done. And this is where everybody's going now. With 36 days to go, the push is on for what to do once Kamala wins. How to maintain the win from the Democratic Party side, and how to disrupt the political system of the United States on the Republican side. How to create an attack like happened in 2020, but this time, or 2021, but this time to make it stick, to make it work, to go in and smash the place up and actually get their hands on some of the elected officials, kill them, whatever they have to do. They're ready to go. This is not funny. This is highly dangerous. And Donald, of course, says, if you do this and you back me up, I'm going to let all those other people out of jail. We'll just send them straight out and let them roam the country, doing whatever craziness they want to do. I mean, this is the plan. Do you have to read it? Go read it. 927 pages in Project 2025. This is what they want to do. They want to tear down the electoral system. They got some other great ideas too, by the way. They're saying that prices are out of control and they're turning our cities into hellholes. And that's why we have to deport everybody, including American citizens. American citizens. And Donald says we're going to prosecute people who cheat. And we may even prosecute people who cheated in 2020 and send them all to jail or deport them. Here's the thing. If they were able to do any of this, which they're not, they'll never get elected. See, I think that Eugene Robinson is so smart on this. I think there are people out here who would like to say that they would vote for Kamala, but I think they're afraid to tell a pollster that. I think they figure they're Republicans. They better say they're voting for Trump and leave it at that. And I think when they walk into that voting booth, I think you're going to see some numbers. They're going to be pretty shocking. And listen, I'm going to be here. We're all going to be here. So, we could walk in and Donald Trump could win by 10, 15, 25%, like he says. And then we could turn this place into the unified Reich. And it would be the end of the United States of America. I mean, Donald has said so clearly, vote for him this time, and you'll never have to vote again. Now, he said it. He didn't say it once. He didn't say it twice. He said it repeatedly, and he still says it. And, of course, he says it to his Christians. He says, my beautiful Christians. And he says, and I am a Christian. And you are my beautiful Christians. He says that they should vote for him and they'll never have to vote again. Where does this language come from? It's certainly a damaging thing in our system. I mean, this is not the kind of thing that we need to have floating around. Even though it's lunacy, got to remember there are millions of people in this country, not a majority in any way, but a number of them, millions, who think that this is a great idea. Prosecute the people in the last election and prosecute the people in this election. Just put them all in jail or send them off to Siberia because we've got that connection now. No, really, they can do whatever they want if they can get elected, which they can't. But I'll tell you what you can do. You can go to dinner at Wendy's and you can enjoy great food because as crazy as Earth 1 and Earth 2 are, Wendy's, you can go there either way. Earth 1 or Earth 2. You can all go to Wendy's. Everybody loves wings, smoked meat, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, patty melts, salads, pizza, great pizza, excellent drinks, and a tremendous environment to just go in and enjoy your dinner and get away from all this craziness, well, for a few hours anyway, and then back out onto the streets. But in the meantime, Wendy's is one of the best, no question about that. And they are at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road, unless you make it to Defiance, where it's $29.99 South Highway 94, and the food is the same, and the people are great, just like they are here in Chesterfield Valley. Go to Wendy's and enjoy a great meal. And by the way, you know my favorites, baby back ribs and onion rings. So after you say all those other great things, it still comes down to baby back ribs and onion rings for me. Whether you're in Defiance, whether you're in Chesterfield, that is Wendy's. Now, you can get great jewelry at 4506 Hampton, and that's in St. Louis. That's, of course, Al and AJ's fabulous business where they've got cases and cases of jewelry that you can come in and inspect and talk to Al about it and just enjoy looking at everything. It's really a cool place. But on top of all of that, the prices are fair. They buy and sell jewelry and coins. You just can't go wrong. If you're looking into buying just something for a wedding or whatever you're doing, the place is on Hampton, and it is Jewels on Hampton. They'll help you to design your jewelry. They'll help you to fix your watch. They do everything. It's Jewels on Hampton, and they are terrific. Now, let me move you straight over into Clayton, and you can find the great people at the St. Louis Suit Company who will provide you with shoes and shirts, overcoats, suits, everything at great prices. And they've been there for 30 years because, listen, they do a great job. Jay and Nick run the place. Jay's the dad, Nick's the son. The whole family's in and out of there running all kinds of the business at the St. Louis Suit Company, and everybody loves it. And 30 years worth, well, I guess they're pretty good, aren't they? They are. And, they also do weddings. And if you go in to have your wedding done, they'll take care of all your wedding attire for the men. They know what they're doing. It's the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. And here's the other thing. Wow, have they got ties. Those ties are amazing. I have another one of the new ones on right now. I have new ties all the time. Such a nice tie. But it's easy at the St. Louis Suit Company because they're $5. Want a new tie? $5. That's it. You're in business because they're in business, and they really have a great business on the corner of Forsyth and Central in Clayton. That is the St. Louis Suit Company. And don't forget, overcoats. I'm telling you, the weather is changing. I can feel it all the time now. On some days it's cool. On other days you can just feel it coming, even though it's sort of, in the 60s and 70s, but not for long. In fact, I think the next couple of days you're going to really feel it. That is the St. Louis Suit Company. They'll protect you from all this cold weather that's coming. Okay. Finally, there's Telena's. Telena's is in Creve Coeur. They're on the corner, basically, of 141 and Olive. They're not right on the corner. They're in the shopping center there. 40 years of Telena's. And I can tell you that when it comes to Italian food, there is none better. And I know all the people around town that have set up these Italian restaurants, and they have big names. And you know what? They can't touch Telena's. They really can't. I had some people over the weekend who were talking to me about it, and we were just discussing the spaghetti and meatballs, which I love. And don't get me wrong, even though I love it, I can differentiate between the best spaghetti and meatballs and just sort of the run-of-the-mill spaghetti and meatballs. And this is the best. It really is. No joke. Mehdi knows what he's doing at Telena's. So go there and enjoy the great food and every kind of Italian dish that you can imagine. And Mehdi has made sure over the years that it's all outstanding food. Really, it is. They also do catering, and they do a great job of catering. And so you definitely want to check them out on that as well. That's Telena's in Creve Coeur. Now, I also want to mention, I was in quite an accident recently on the way up to the studio. I mean, it all worked out okay. You can see me standing here. I'm still breathing. Although if you'd see the car, you'd think I weren't. But the deal is, I just picked up a brand new car. And I got this car from Spirit Lexus. Now, they're not an official advertiser yet. We're talking about it. But I will say this. I've been at Spirit Lexus for 10 years. I had a Lexus until a lady plowed through the stop sign and wiped my Lexus out. And then I went up there and just this weekend got a new one. And I'll have to tell you that the new Lexus cars are just incredible. This is not a paid ad. I'm just telling you. Now, on top of that, and this is what I was saying to them, when you buy a car, you deal with the people there, the whatever you call them, the dealership. You deal with them. And generally, people hate their dealership. I mean, I bought cars for decades. You can get a deal, but you end up hating your dealership. I promise you, it's very typical. In the meantime, 10 years at Lexus, and I love the dealership. I love to go there. I love to get my car fixed. I love to talk to the people who are in charge of service. I call them. They're on the phone immediately. They call back right away. They're on top of everything, and they make sure that you are extremely satisfied to the point that even during COVID, they drive out and they wipe down everything in the car. They practically want to wipe down everything in your house. Unbelievable people. Great service. We'll see what happens, but we are talking to Lexus, and I'm enjoying my Lexus. In fact, I was watching as Vic Faust walked out of the studio, and I thought to myself, you better not nick my door in the way out into that parking lot. I got to park it on the other side of the world to make sure nobody hits my car. Anyway, okay, let's go on. We got 10 minutes left of Donald Trump and his insanity. And here's one for you. And it's pretty creepy, actually. Donald says that he is going to protect women. And it really is creepy. Because remember, he's a rapist. I mean, the man's a rapist. And it's so funny. You don't have to hold back now. He's been judged as being that by a jury. And then, of course, people say, no. Only sexual assault, not rape. So if that were true, let's say that were true, then we could argue over what it was that he actually did to that woman. And I'm not going to ever have that conversation with anybody on the air because it's too creepy. And beyond that, the judge jumped in and said, let's not have this argument over rape or sexual assault. He said it's rape. And if you don't believe me, go check it out in the Washington Post. They've got a great long story. And it's a story. It's not a story about saying that it's rape. It's a story about the judge saying that it's rape. But the judge did say that. He wanted to clarify everything. He said that based on what the jury decided, it was rape. Go read about it. But it doesn't matter, because if it weren't rape, then I would have to ask you, would you like to have anybody in your family sexually assaulted? Because that's what Republicans say. It's not rape. It's sexual assault. Well, I'll tell you what. I don't think you want your families sexually assaulted. Of course not. And in the meantime, I keep saying that 19 women have accused Donald of rape. But there is a little caveat to that, and that is apparently it may not be 19, so I might have been wrong. It might be 26. But as far as I know, it's 19. But if it's 26, it's 26. But I think it's 19. So 19 is 19 too many. And E. Jean Carroll is walking away with $90 million because Donald can't keep his mouth quiet. And believe me, when this election's over, he's going to come right back at all of these things. He's going to lose. And then he's going to come back and he's going to start blaming everybody, start blaming the courts and attacking the courts. And by that time, possibly Judge Merchan, when he has to sentence Donald in November, he may very well put Donald in jail where Donald belongs. You know, that little trailer that Jim Comey says they can set up on Rikers for Donald. I think that would be a good idea. But in the meantime, Donald says he's going to protect women. And what's so interesting is, you know, they've got women on all the time now telling their stories about how they were pregnant and then they had a miscarriage. They're often, you know, the water might have broken, say, at 20 weeks. And unfortunately, it happens, they said over the weekend, 20% of the time. It's pretty high. It's thousands of women. And they explained, you know, these are doctors. They explained that this is a natural part of childbirth, that some of these pregnancies just don't work out. and then you have to go back and try to get pregnant again. But the point is, when these women are in trouble and they need to go to a doctor to get medical care, the doctors are afraid to provide the medical care. It's not that they don't want to. It's not that they think that what they're doing is immoral. Actually, it's highly moral. They're saving women's lives, and it's immoral not to do it. But they are afraid. A woman comes with, bleeding or this water breaking, or maybe a combination of both, and then sepsis sets in and organs start shutting down, and the doctors have to wait until the last moment in order to be sure that they're not going to go to jail, which, and this is amazing too, I mean, doctors have already begun to go to jail. There are doctors in America. Of course, they're in, southern cities where white men are making decisions that are insane based on Donald's proclamations, as to how he's going to protect a woman. And then I was listening to him saying, I thought women liked me. I think women do like me. I mean, the whole thing of him saying all this, which is what he's doing at these rallies, it is creepy. There's no other way to describe it. It's just creepy. Something wrong with this guy. The guy who's telling you that tonight, when you go home to eat dinner, assuming, let's say you don't go to Wendy's for dinner and you don't go to Telena's, but you just go home. You just think you're going to prepare dinner tonight at your home. But the migrants are coming to your house to come into your kitchen in order to cut your throat. And for me to say it once is stupidity. And for me to say it 3, 4, 5 times is really ridiculous, because why would you even discuss this except for the fact that Donald is saying it? So if you think I'm stupid, and I think I am, I shouldn't even be talking about this. So I think it's stupid for me to talk about this. So what is it that he's doing? Because I'm talking about a presidential candidate gone wild, gone nuts, very ill, that's saying things that anybody could figure out are not true, including, let's face it, this is right in the same vein as the people who were saying that Hillary was eating children in the basement of the pizzeria. I think this is worse. I think this is far crazier and extremely dangerous. And by the way, speaking of dangerous, you know that in Ohio, there are still threats every day against people in Ohio because of Donald's claim that the Haitians are coming to eat your dogs. They say on all these television programs that these things that Donald are saying are just tropes. Not that that's okay, but they're saying that they're tropes. In other words, words that are used that are synonymous with anti-black and anti-Jewish and all these other groups trying to turn somebody into the other. But here's the thing. It's far worse than that. I wouldn't say trope, and I'm not saying it's a trope. I'm saying that Donald is threatening the lives of people daily. It is horrible. Okay, I'm getting out of here. Let's see if I can make it around the train. And in the meantime, remember Wendy's, remember Jules on Hampton. Remember the St. Louis Suit Company. Remember Telena's. I'm Mark Kaysen. This is Showdown.